Picture this, farmland stretching for miles, the low hum of an old engine, and out of nowhere, a tractor that's so strange looking but you can't help but stare. Today we're going to count down the 10 ugliest American tractors you probably never knew existed. Let's get nostalgic as we explore these mechanical misfits from the 1900s, and believe me, some are truly unforgettable. Now, let's dig in. And number 1, the Hart Par 3. Arguably one of the earliest successful gasoline-powered tractors, the Hart Par 3 is often cited as a pioneer in the very definition of tractor. Founded by Charles Hart and Charles Parr, the company launched this model around 1906. Its design was, by modern standards, extremely crude. A large horizontal engine with massive external flywheels mounted on a rectangular frame. I mean, come on. The radiator sat front and center like a big metal box, and the operator's seat was little more than a metal perch behind the engine. Combine these elements, and you've got a contraption that makes onlookers question whether it's half finished. Offering around 30 horsepower, the Hart Par 3 was intended to replace steam engines on farms, using gasoline as its primary fuel source. This was a significant leap forward, but the aesthetic left much to be desired. Exposed gears, thick pipes, and a tall exhaust stack gave it a clunky silhouette. The name tractor was popularized in part by Hart Parr's marketing, as they sought to differentiate their machines from earlier tractor engines. While this distinction did help shape the future of farming, it did little for the tractor's overall appearance. To many eyes, it was a hulking, unrefined beast of iron and steel. Now still, the Hart Par 3's historical impact can't be overstated. It introduced a new era of agricultural mechanization, paving the way for future innovations. It's the perfect example of how early tractors prioritized raw function over any sense of style. Today, very few of these machines remain, but the ones that do attract plenty of attention at museums and vintage machinery events. For all its ungainly curves and exposed innards, the Hart Par 3 stands as a testament to American ingenuity at the dawn of the 1900s. Number 2, the International Harvester Mogul 816. Now, the International Harvester Mogul 816 was one of the first commercially successful lightweight tractors produced by IH. Rolling out between 1914 and 17, it was a response to smaller farms needing a simpler and cheaper machine than the massive gas tractors of the era. Now, while it met those needs, it also looked rather ungainly. Its engine was mounted to one side, and that created a lopsided appearance. A large flywheel protruded from the opposite side, adding to the feeling that this machine was assembled from random parts. Compared to the symmetrical lines of later tractors, the Mogul 816 could appear downright ramshackle. Power came from a single-cylinder horizontal engine that was rated at about 8 horsepower on the drawbar and 16 on the belt, so hence the name. Now, this design was cost-effective and reliable, but it contributed to an awkward silhouette. Now, the operator's platform was minimal, and the steering gear was exposed, which gave it a kind of skeletal look. Steel wheels and metal lugs provided traction in the fields, but their thin spoke design added to the overall unbalanced aesthetic. Yet, despite the quirks, the 816 sold fairly well for the time, helping smaller operations transition from horsepower to mechanical power. It's easy to poke fun at the Mogul's homely looks today, but back then, it played a pivotal role in expanding the accessibility of tractors. In reality, it got the job done for countless families that were looking to modernize their farms. Nostalgia runs deep with these early 1900s machines, and for many, the Mogul's rough edges are all part of the charm. At antique tractor shows, enthusiasts marvel at the simplicity and grin at its oddly placed engine. Love it or loathe it, the International Harvester Mogul 816 is a fine example of how function often trumped form in the early days of mechanized farming. Number 3, the John Deere Dane all-wheel drive. Before John Deere became synonymous with the classic green and yellow styling that we know today, there was the Dane all-wheel drive tractor. Developed in 1918 by Joseph Dane, it was John Deere's first attempt at a motorized farm machine before the iconic Model D. Now, visually, it was a departure from what we now consider a normal tractor. The Dane sat high off the ground, and it had hefty steel wheels and was encased in bulky sheet metal that looked more industrial than agricultural. This early Deere creation, made in limited quantities, was later overshadowed by more refined models, but it remains a curious oddball. Technically speaking, the Dane was well ahead of its time. Equipped with a 4-cylinder engine, producing about 30 horsepower, it featured all-wheel drive, an uncommon trait in the era. This gave it greater traction and stability than many competitors, but it also contributed to a cluttered, mechanical appearance. Gears, drive shafts, and differentials were more visible than other designs, and the large riveted iron components gave it a somewhat ungainly silhouette. Now, while the engineering was groundbreaking, the looks were far from elegant, making it a prime candidate for any list of ugly American tractors. Despite its potential, the Dane all-wheel drive never reached full production, and John Deere ultimately shifted its focus to other models, leaving the Dane in relative obscurity. Of the few that were made, even fewer remain today, making it a very rare collector's item. But in all seriousness, its towering stance and busy frame made it both fascinating and a bit hard on the eyes. For fans of the brand, it's a glimpse into John Deere's earliest foray into mechanical power, warts and all. Now, though overshadowed in the grand timeline of tractors, the Dane's place is secure as an intriguing footnote in the company's storied heritage. Number 4. The Avery Road Track. B.F. Avery & Sons, based in Louisville, Kentucky, produced the Avery Road Track with a unique focus on row crop work in the 30s and 40s. Remember, that's Louisville, Kentucky, not Louisville, Kentucky. I've been corrected many times. Now, this machine stood out with its spindly, lightweight frame and a high-arched front axle that was designed to straddle crop rows. Although that feature was functional, it gave the tractor a gangly stance that many farmers deemed less than attractive. The road track's narrow front wheels and elongated radiator grille contributed to a bit of an odd look, as if it was perpetually on tiptoe. While purposeful, its design certainly made it a contender for the ugly category. Now, equipped with a modest four-cylinder engine, often sourced from Continental, the road track produced around 20 to 25 horsepower. It was enough to handle cultivators and light plowing tasks, but by no means was a powerhouse. The real selling point was maneuverability. The high clearance and narrow configuration would allow farmers to work between rows of corn or other tall crops without damaging them. However, this aesthetic trade-off was clear. The tractor's tall stance and minimal bodywork left critical components exposed, making it look unfinished or awkwardly assembled. But beyond the looks, the Avery Road Track was reasonably popular among small-scale farmers who needed a specialized tool. B.F. Avery eventually merged with other companies, and the road track line disappeared as tractor designs evolved. Now look, this odd-looking contraption reflects a moment in American ag history when companies tried to tailor their machines to extremely specific farm tasks. Yeah, it looks like it's on stilts, but for those that used it, function trumped form every time. And today, its unusual shape makes it a conversation piece among collectors, a reminder of how inventive and visually unorthodox early 1900s farm machinery could be. Number 5. The Silver King Model 42. Now, manufactured by the Fate Root Health Company in Plymouth, Ohio, Silver King tractors were known for their bright silver paint jobs and compact design. The silver paint job, that's a no-brainer. The Model 42, produced in the 1930s, was a three-wheeled oddity that turned heads for all the wrong reasons. Its single front wheel jutted out awkwardly, while the rest of the machine looked like a standard small tractor from the era. The offset engine, cowling, and minimal sheet metal added to its unconventional aesthetic. Though it was marketed as maneuverable and handy, its lean and lanky look made some farmers wonder if it might topple over at any moment. Despite appearances, the Model 42 was no slouch under the hood. Powered by a four-cylinder Hercules engine that produced about 25 horsepower, it was actually quite capable for row crop tasks and small farm chores. The steering was often praised for its tight turning radius, a benefit of that single front wheel design. And yes, the color scheme was undeniably unique, shimmering silver paint offset by minimal black trim. But if you're more accustomed to the muscular lines of larger tractors, the Silver King's spidery proportions and stubby stance could seem downright homely. Now, collectively, Silver King tractors have developed a bit of a cult following. Fans appreciate their historical significance and the brand's commitment to innovation, even if aesthetics left something to be desired. Now, that being said, the Model 42 was a genuine attempt to create a nimble tractor for tight spaces, a big plus for farmers that were working a smaller plot. And today, they're rare to find at vintage farm shows, where admirers either find them intriguingly quirky or just plain ugly. But regardless, the Silver King Model 42 remains a nostalgic piece of 1930s American farming history, proving once again that appearances aren't everything in agriculture. Number 6. The Case 1832 Cross Motor. Long before J.I. Case became known for more conventional tractor silhouettes, they produced the 1832 Crossmotor, which was a machine that truly lived up to the term ugly duckling. Now, it was sold between 1919 and 1928, and this design placed the engine sideways, hence cross-motor, on the chassis. The idea was to facilitate maintenance and keep the tractor's center of gravity balanced, but visually, it was a bit of a head-scratcher. The cylinder head, spark plugs, and other engine components jutted out from the tractor's side, making it more like an open-air mechanical workshop than a polished piece of farming equipment. From a performance standpoint, the 1832 delivered respectable figures for its day. Its four-cylinder engine generated about 18 horsepower at the drawbar and around 32 on the belt, hence the model designation. Now, steel wheels with angled lugs were standard, providing grip in freshly plowed fields. Operating this cross-motor design, however, demanded a bit of a learning curve. The sideways layout meant controls had unique placements, and the big, boxy radiator perched at the front further distorted the tractor's proportions. And if a passerby saw it from the wrong angle, they might have thought a blacksmith welded two different machines altogether. Now, despite the aesthetic oddities, the 1832 was a decent workhorse on many Midwestern farms. Case promoted its cross-motor approach as modern and efficient, though some farmers weren't really sold on the unorthodox design. The tractor did manage to build a small but loyal base of users who appreciated its balanced construction and straightforward mechanics. Now, over time, as tractors' design standardized, the cross-motor concept faded away, leaving the 1832 as an artifact of experimentation in the roaring 20s. While undeniably quirky, it stands out as a testament to Case's willingness to push boundaries, even if it meant sporting one of the strangest profiles to ever grace an American field. Number 7, the Farmall F12. Now, International Harvester's Farmall line became famous for its innovative row crop tractors, but the F12, introduced in 1932, presented a gawky profile that still has some folks scratching their heads. Sporting a narrow front end and relatively high ground clearance, the F12 was engineered to straddle rows of corn or cotton without flattening them. This functionality was brilliant for row crop farming, yet it gave the tractor an elongated and top-heavy appearance. Early models often came with steel wheels that featured angled lugs, which often added to its rattling skeletal vibe when traveling over hard ground. Under its sheet metal, the F12 packed a four-cylinder engine that would produce 10 to 16 horsepower at the drawbar, depending on fuel type. It could be gasoline, kerosene, or distillate, and all while that might seem modest, it's still sufficient for small to medium-scale chores like plowing, cultivating, and hauling. The transmission offered 3 forward speeds, and it gave farmers just enough flexibility to handle various tasks. However, just one glance at the operator station reveals the bare-bones nature of early mechanized farming. The seat perched atop a simple frame, and many of the tractor's mechanical components still left exposed. Still, the F12 carved out a loyal following among farmers who prized its maneuverability and cost-effectiveness. It excelled at row crop cultivation, allowing families to reduce the need for horses and labor. Yet, if you lined it up next to a sleek modern tractor, you'd likely think someone forgot half the body panels. Collectors today appreciate its historical importance as an entry-level machine that paved the way for more advanced Farmall models, but truth be told, the F12, it remains a prime example of how practicality can sometimes trump all else, resulting in a design that still raises eyebrows in tractor circles. Number 8, the John Deere GP Orchard. Now, John Deere's GP series might be a beloved classic, but the Orchard variant, commonly referred to as the GPO, was a different beast altogether. Designed between 1928 and 1935 for use in orchards and groves, of course, it boasted extensive sheet metal to shield branches and fruit-laden limbs from snagging onto the tractor's machinery. While its intent was practical, the result was an awkwardly bulbous exterior that looked more like a protective suit than a sleek farm implement. The elongated fenders, extended hood, and close-fitting side panels created a bulky silhouette that farmers found either ingenious or just downright hideous. Beneath the ample metal cladding lay a 2-cylinder engine that generated roughly 20 to 25 horsepower, which is enough to navigate between rows of fruit trees without scarring trunks or knocking off blossoms. and the GPO's low stance and wide wheel spacing help it maneuver through tight orchard lanes, but it also contributed to its squat, enclosed appearance. Onlookers unfamiliar with orchard tractors would often wonder if John Deere created some sort of prototype tank for the produce market. Inside the operator station, visibility could be limited due to all that extra shielding, which made it a bit tricky to see around corners. Look, despite the GPO's ungainly looks, orchard farmers applauded John Deere's efforts. The protective panels genuinely reduced crop damage, which translated to higher yields at harvest. The tractor's design also highlighted an emerging trend: tailoring machinery to specialized agricultural settings. When parked beside a standard John Deere GP, the orchard model's cavernous hood and towering side panels stood out like a sore thumb. Nostalgia today shines kindly on the GPO, but there's no denying that it was, and still is, one of the more visually peculiar tractors to roll out of the legendary green and yellow factory. Number 9, the Cletrac Model F. Built by the Cleveland Tractor Company, or Cletrac, the Model F was a crawler tractor that looked more like a tank without a turret than a piece of farm equipment. Crawlers weren't unheard of at the time, but Cletrac's design philosophy emphasized compact efficiency, a notion that yielded some oddly squat, boxy machines. The Model F, introduced in 1919, was powered by a 4-cylinder engine delivering roughly 15 drawbar horsepower, placing it in the mid-range class of that era. Its tracks allowed it to operate on soft or uneven terrain, reducing soil compaction compared to steel wheels. One glance at the Model F might have you scratching your head a bit. Its wide, almost rectangular hood seemed to swallow up the small operator seat behind it. The machine's overall height was quite low, a feature intended to keep the center of gravity stable on slopes. But from a purely aesthetic standpoint, its compressed stature and large track assemblies gave it a clumsy, beetle-like profile. While other tractors of the day were also rough around the edges, the Model F's heavy side frames and exposed gearing made it look more like heavy construction equipment than something designed for plowing fields. Yet for all its awkwardness, the Cletrac Model F performed admirably in challenging conditions, such as muddy fields or hilly terrain. Many farmers appreciated its robust design, which required fewer repairs than some competitors. Plus, its crawler undercarriage provided excellent traction, allowing the Model F to handle tasks that stumped traditional wheeled models. Over time, advances in crawler technology led to sleeker, more powerful machines, and Cletrac eventually faded into tractor history. Even so, the Model F holds a special place in the nostalgia of American agriculture, a prime example of how raw functionality can sometimes translate into an undeniably ungainly look. Number 10, the Yuba Ball Tread Tractor. Now, few machines from the early 1900s would turn heads the way that the Yuba Ball Tread Tractor did. Often for all the wrong reasons. And it was produced by the Yuba Manufacturing Company in Marysville, California. And this oddity replaced standard wheels or tracks with a pair of circular ball treads. Each tread consisted of multiple rounded metal plates that rotated around the drive assembly, creating a strange, almost caterpillar-like motion. And the concept was to improve traction and prevent the tractor from sinking into soft ground, which were common challenges on uneven farmland. Now, unfortunately, the unwieldy look of these rotating drums made the whole machine appear more like a lunar rover than an actual piece of farming equipment. Now, under the hood, the Yuba Ball Tread typically featured a 4-cylinder engine that was capable of delivering 15 to 25 horsepower, depending on the specific model. It wasn't a high output machine, but it offered enough grunt for plowing and light tillage on smaller plots. The real head turner was the exposed undercarriage. With the rotating ball treads front and back, passers-by could see the entire drive mechanism in motion. This gave rise to countless jokes at county fairs, where onlookers would wonder if the tractor was missing its tires or if it literally grew metal mushrooms on its wheels. Now, despite the bizarre appearance, though, the Yuba Ball Tread attracted a devoted following, at least for a while, due to its unique traction capabilities. In muddy or marshy conditions, some farmers found it outperformed conventional steel-wheeled tractors. However, as more refined designs emerged, the ball tread's unwieldy technology and unsightly profile made it less appealing. Eventually, Yuba Manufacturing disappeared from the tractor market, leaving behind a legacy of one of the strangest-looking farm machines in all of American history. While undeniably ugly to most eyes, it remains a testament to the wild innovation that defined early 20th century agriculture, when ugly was a small price to pay when ushering in a new farming revolution. Thanks for joining me on this nostalgic ride through some of America's ugliest tractors. Each of these machines played a crucial role in shaping farming as we know it, proving that function often wins over form. Now, I hope you found this deep dive helpful and maybe even a little entertaining, despite my cold. If you want more down-to-earth looks at classic farm equipment and other forgotten machines, please subscribe to our channel. Our crew is awesome here. I love working with them and reading for them, and your support helps keep these stories alive. So until next time, keep those engines running and keep your memories alive. These tractors, well, they sure did.